What's going on, guys? Welcome to the video. So everyone's favourite Remoaning activist Femi appeared on BBC News earlier this morning with the Brexiteer Stephen Eggington, discussing yesterday's ridiculous Supreme Court ruling that made prorogation of Parliament for more than a couple of days unlawful because we are no longer run by a Prime Minister and other elected ministers. We are ruled by rich activists like Virginia Miller and unelected judges. Well, Femi does a terrible job defending his undemocratic views and tops it off by showing us Diane Abbott levels of mathematical genius when he claims 69% is not a majority. So let's check it out.
Great implications for Brexit. Let's find out what people on both sides think. Joining us now here in wet Westminster is Femi Oluwole, a Remain campaigner from Our Future, Our Choice, and Stephen Eggington, who's a former member of the Leave Means Leave campaign. Morning to both of you. I wonder whether you just sum up initially kind of where you were and what you thought when you got this Supreme Court ruling yesterday. Stephen, start with you.
Well, obviously I want to congratulate Femi on his huge win for Remainers. I mean, this is a huge moment for them. They've yet again won on process to try and stop Brexit. But in the end, I think this is a huge victory for Brexiteers and Boris Johnson because it simply shows how far the establishment are willing to go to overturn the will of the people. So in the end, this will come back to bite people like Remainers and Femi here because, look, these are unelected judges and they've made yet another decision to try and overturn the will of the people.
Femi, what was your reaction?
Well, basically, if the courts had done anything other than declare that decision to shut down Parliament unlawful, it would have set a precedent whereby all future Prime Ministers would be able to shut down a directly elected sovereign Parliament whenever they weren't getting their way. It would have created a dictatorship. Now, the idea of questioning the legitimacy of judges is a very dangerous route to head down. It worries me.
I love how Stephen instantly mocks Femi and the Remainers by congratulating them on their undemocratic victory yesterday. I'm not sure Femi is bright enough or alert enough at 6:40 AM to realise this guy is mocking him, but it's funny anyway. Stephen thinks in the end it's a victory for Brexit because it has once again shown how far these Remoaning spunk trumpets will go to ignore the will of the people. Like I said yesterday, the decision to rule against the government smashed the illusion of democracy we have been living in for decades now. The will of the people is of no concern to the Remoaners or the courts. They only care about what best serves their interests. Stephen literally says word for word what I said yesterday about this court decision, eventually coming back to bite the Remoaners in the arse, because eventually it will be used against something they want or voted for. Of course, Femi thinks the courts had to rule in favour of Virginia Miller because prorogation makes the Prime Minister a dictator in the eyes of this complete fuckpig. He claims questioning the legitimacy of the judges is dangerous, but no one questions their legitimacy as judges. We question the reasons behind their decision yesterday, considering precedent suggests prerogative powers are not for the court to decide. Their position as judges is solidified. Their decision is what people have an issue with, Femi, so stop talking shit.
It worries him.
Well, I'll tell you what is quite dangerous is describing our elected Prime Minister as a dictator. I mean, that kind of language simply leads to division in this country, and that's what Femi loves to purport. I mean, his idea of a second referendum, it's so divisive. And this is what Remainers like to do. They like to use language like a coup or a dictatorship when we have an elected Parliament. And look, I think that we've had a democratic referendum in 2016. My view is that that should be enacted. That's a moderate democratic view. Then there's people on the other side who think that actually we should overturn the referendum, and they want to use every means possible, whether it's through the establishment, through the civil service, whether it's through the courts, whether it's through the media or the speaker, breaking precedent. They are using every trick in the book to try and overturn the will of the people.
I don't think this is the discussion about the court ruling in the eyes of our Brexiteer friend here. He is just using it as an opportunity to shit-talk the snivelling shit-weasel Femi. He points out everything these Remoaners are trying to do goes against the will of the people and how they are using every trick in the book to destroy democracy while calling Boris Johnson a dictator, which we all know is stupid since Boris has no actual power. He is being propped up by the Labour Party as a minority government, which shows the insanity of the Remainers' ideas and the lengths they will go to block the referendum. They are providing confidence and supply to the Conservative Party. Take that in for a second. Labour have been providing confidence and supply to a minority government. Stephen points out the Remainers are the people creating divisions in the country because they run around calling Boris Johnson a dictator or how he has performed a coup, which actually shows the complete stupidity of these Remoaners, since a coup can only be performed by someone who is not in government, since it means to overthrow the actual legitimate government. But it's 2019. The lunatics run the asylum, so who actually cares about being accurate when throwing around labels? Femi certainly doesn't.
Femi, what do you say to this argument Stephen's made, that you might have won the battle yesterday in the Supreme Court, persuaded the judges, but you might still lose the war, that Brexit might still happen, and it might have actually helped Boris Johnson in the long term?
Well, let's not forget, this idea that you just need to get Brexit done, what Stephen here is pushing for is a no-deal Brexit. That's what Boris Johnson is tried to shut down Parliament to achieve.
He says he wants a deal.
Well, yeah, he says he wants that, but he's not really arguing for it. The EU hasn't received any proposals. He's just basically biding his time, hoping we crash out on October 31st. Now, as for the idea of no deal, it's funny, you're a former Leave Means Leave person. Leave Means Leave put out graphics showing that only 69% of Leave voters want no deal. Now, if it's 69% of 52%, that is a minority. They are pushing for something that does not have a majority in the public. And as for whether or not we can have any democratic legitimacy behind it, in 2017 general election, the only opportunity we've had to say what sort of Brexit we would or would not accept, 54% voted for parties whose manifestos explicitly ruled out no deal. So that would be fundamentally undemocratic if we were to leave the EU without a deal.
Yes, Femi will lose the war, Brexit will be done because the country will be in the shit if it's not. You can see Femi is a bit stumped for an answer at the start of that clip. What's the matter, Femi? Normally you don't shut up. It goes to show how out of touch with the public even Femi is, because he tries to make out like Stephen and Boris wanting a no-deal Brexit is a bad thing. Sorry Femi, but the country does not agree with you. Most people, even if they did not want no deal, just want to leave the EU next month. They're sick of the bullshit from you and these undemocratic traitors in Parliament at the end of the day. Why do you think the Labour Party are running scared when it comes to an election? We then hear Femi come out with what has to be the dumbest defence of his anti-no deal stance I have ever heard. He brings up the Leave Means Leave campaign, who put out figures stating 69% of Leave voters are happy with a no deal Brexit. I love the way he said only 69%, when I last checked, 69% is a pretty large majority, so I'm not sure why he used that figure. Democracy is taken from the wishes of the majority voting, so using that figure does not really help your cause. He claims that 69% is a minority, which is just baffling and shows that he went to the Diane Abbott School of Mathematics. Really, all he did there is prove no deal has the majority among the winners who voted during the 2016 referendum, plus everyone else who now supports Brexit by any means necessary, regardless of which way they voted in the referendum, because you know, most Remain voters support democracy and accept the result. It's just activists like Femi, the media, and our political and judicial systems that don't support democracy. He starts claiming previous elections have shown people don't want no deal because people voted for parties that wanted a deal, which is partially correct, but that completely ignores the fact that none of the big parties ran on a no-deal manifesto, so everyone had to vote for either the Tory party who wanted a deal but said no deal was better than a bad deal, or the Labour manifesto which said they would leave on a deal, and they haven't actually done, they now want to remain. No one who voted in the 2017 election expected both Maybot and the Corbynated chicken to go back on their election pledges to leave the EU, and the 2019 European elections showed that a no-deal Brexit has real popularity in the UK because the Brexit party absolutely destroyed everyone with their no-deal pledge. So Femi, you're not actually helping your cause in this interview, you fucking idiot.
Stephen, have you been outmanoeuvred by Remain? Have you lost it in the last couple of weeks?
I don't quite think so. I mean, if you look at Remainers in Parliament, they're refusing to vote for a general election because they're so terrified of going to the country, of being voted out by people who actually want to carry on Brexit. I mean, let's look at what Femi is saying. Every single opportunity the British people have had to vote for Brexit, they have. In 2015, we voted for David Cameron, who promised a referendum. In 2016, 17.4 million people voted for Brexit. In 2017, 84% of people voted for parties who wanted to deliver Brexit. In 2019, this year, the Brexit Party won the European elections by a landslide. Every single opportunity that we have had as the British people has been to vote for Brexit, and you can see why Remainers like Femi and those people in Parliament behind me are terrified of a general election.
Well, the host asked if the Brexiteers have been outmanoeuvred, which of course they have not, and Stephen explains why. The Remain parties are afraid of going to the public in a general election because they know they are going to get hammered by the voters. I think big heads will roll on both sides of the major parties because of the way they have treated the British public over the last 3 years. The backlash is going to be epic, and the carbonated chicken and his undemocratic cumbuckets know this, so they are running scared. Stephen then goes on to demolish everything Femi said in the last clip by pointing out every vote over the last 5 years, from Cameron being elected in 2015 to the Brexit party smashing the European elections earlier this year and becoming the biggest single party in the European Parliament, is a statistical fact that every time the British people are asked what they want, they vote for Brexit. So Femi, pipe down dickhead, your bullshit don't wash with us, and it ain't gonna wash with the British voter. Let's check out the final clip though.
So if we leave the EU with the deal we just negotiated, would Brexit voters be happy?
I mean,
Yes or no? It's a yes or no question.
I personally don't agree with the deal that Theresa May.
would Brexit voters be
Theresa
happy?
May. I personally don't agree with it. I
Yeah.
think many Brexit voters will be angry
Yeah.
with Theresa May because she was the one who negotiated this withdrawal agreement.
So that means there are versions of Brexit that do not have majority support. Now, as I just said, if there are versions of Brexit that don't have majority support, the only opportunity we've had to say what sort of Brexit we would or would not accept is a general election,
Other than
or where the
all those elections I just talked about.
where the majority.
All those elections I just talked about.
There's a difference between Brexit and no deal Brexit. The majority voted for parties who explicitly said in their manifestos, "We will not take us out of the EU without a deal."
Theresa
Gents, we're going to have to leave it there, I'm afraid. I think we might return to this at some point in the future. Something's telling me. For now, thank you very much indeed.
So Femi asked Stephen with some confidence, if we leave the EU with the Maybot deal, would we be happy with it? Which, of course, we know the answer is no. The only people who will be happy with the Maybot deal are the Remainers in Parliament and anyone who has not read or does not understand the implications of the Maybot Surrender Treaty, because, of course, Femi thinks people wanting different forms of Brexit means the form of Brexit he dislikes the most should not be considered. Shut up, you idiot. His claim the general election showed the deal is the only form of Brexit people want, but we've already destroyed that argument as it does not stand up, since a no-deal Brexit has never been offered to the British people, and with the Labour Party refusing an election, it's not going to be offered yet for us to know how much of the country will support Boris Johnson and Nigel Farage, who will take us out of the EU with or without a deal. Femi is like the Labour Party, scared of hearing what the British people think. This shitweasel just lives on Twitter and has no clue what real people think outside of his little bubble. This interview has just outed him as a complete imbecile and someone who clearly learned maths from Diane Abbott, with 69% not being a majority. What a tosspot. Well, I'm going to end the video there, guys. I want to thank the channel's PayPal, Patreon and Subscribe Star members for supporting the channel, along with everyone who watches my videos. Let me know what you guys think down in the comment section below. Leave a like, subscribe with the notification bell and share this video as it helps the channel a lot. And I will see you all in the next one.